everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I just want to talk about a few comments I've had on my channel. Now, first of all, 99.9% of the comments on my channel are so super kind and supportive and enthusiastic, and they really help me to stay motivated. But every once in a while I get a comment from somebody who I think just doesn't get the whole concept of thrifting and sewing and upcycling. So I want to address some of those comments today. So one of my most popular videos is about making t-shirts bigger. While the vast majority of people who commented found that video really helpful and inspiring and motivating, there have been a few comments from people that I think are just kind of funny. Like this comment from a viewer who thinks that I should just go buy a new t-shirt. But the thing is that each new t-shirt that you buy comes with a very heavy social and environmental footprint. And for those reasons and a few others, I just choose not to participate in fast fashion. I hardly ever buy new clothes. So please let me take you through 6 reasons why I prefer thrifting and upcycling over buying new clothes. So thrifting and upcycling to me are the most ethical and sustainable ways to dress yourself. That one t-shirt that viewer thinks I should go buy, for that one t-shirt, 2,700 liters of water are used and degraded and put back into our water system, and carrying with it chemical dyes and finishes that are very destructive to our water system. On top of that are the social concerns about underpaid workers working in really unsafe conditions. I made a video about fast fashion and all the problems associated with it, and I'll link it in the description below. So when that viewer says I should just go buy a new t-shirt, no, thank you. And the second reason that I prefer to thrift and upcycle my wardrobe is that by thrifting, I'm not only not participating in fast fashion, I'm also rescuing things from going into the landfill. Our unwanted clothing, whether you donate it or just stick it in a garbage can, the odds are that that clothing is going to end up in a landfill or in being incinerated or being shipped off to a developing country to put into their landfills. My sister-in-law Elaine made a really great video where she filmed herself being interviewed for radio about sustainable fashion, and she talks about these mountains of clothing in countries like Chile, where it's just our unwanted stuff being piled up in their country. That's not fair. So I'll link Elaine's video in the description box as well, because it's a really good one. The point here is that not everything that's hanging up in a thrift store gets sold. A lot of it, a big percentage of it, does not get sold. Instead, it gets sent to a landfill, incinerated, sent off to a developing country to put into their landfill. So anytime we can rescue a garment and breathe new life into it, it's a score for us and for the environment. So number 3. Now, this comment comes from a viewer that I would say just does not get it. So this viewer says, I simply cannot watch you chop up a perfectly good cardigan to mash it onto a jacket that doesn't need anything in reality. Well, first of all, you don't have to watch me. You can just move on, keep scrolling. But for me, I don't want to just thrift. A lot of people are not interested in thrifting because they feel like you get to just choose from old, out-of-style clothing. But I want my clothes to be just as fun and interesting and exciting as any shiny new thing that's at the mall. But when you can sew, the clothing in a thrift store becomes your raw materials. And the cardigan and jacket that this viewer was referring to were really boring and not my style at all. I don't think anybody was going to be coming in right behind me to snap those up and love them the way they were. They were not very lovable, but they were perfect for the project that I had in mind. And I enjoyed the process. It was so much fun to figure that one out. And I love the finished product. I wear that jacket all the time. It's one of my favorite pieces. So the point here is that by thrifting and upcycling, you end up with a one-of-a-kind wardrobe that you can't just buy at the mall. Okay, number 4. This one kind of made me laugh. They say, FFS, just return it and buy the right size. Now that made me laugh because first of all, it's rude. It's kind of rude, right? Throwing in the FFS is unnecessary, but whatever. Okay. They must never have been in a thrift store because that's not how it works. You can't just say to the salesperson, can I see this awesome Spider-Man t-shirt in a larger size? Like, they don't have other sizes. That's the only one. That's how a thrift store works. And that's why sewing skills are such an asset when you get into thrifting. I absolutely love that I can buy pretty much anything in the thrift store and size it up, size it down, make it work for me, customize the fit. And you know what? If I bought a new t-shirt, I'd probably want to change the fit a little bit anyway. The neckline's going to be too high. The shoulder's going to be too droopy. I'm probably going to want to work on it anyway. So by buying new, I'm no further ahead. But by making it myself, whether thrifting it or making it from scratch, I can tailor the fit exactly how I want it to my own preferences and my own aesthetic while being much more ethical and sustainable. FFS. Number 5. Of course, thrifting is much cheaper than buying new, most of the time. Fast fashion is ridiculously cheap. You're not paying the true cost of the garment when you buy something at a big box store that is just a few dollars. Somebody somewhere along the way is paying for you to have those cheap clothes. They're paying through unsafe working conditions, very low environmental standards. Somebody is paying the price. So even as those fast fashion prices come down and down, the prices at thrift stores keep going up, especially at some of the big chain thrift stores like Value Village. Those prices keep creeping up to the point where, yeah, sometimes you can find a good sale and buy something cheaper new than you'd be able to thrift it. To solve that problem, I tend to visit the not-for-profit charity thrift stores more than I visit the big chain thrift stores. They're more fun and I feel like I'm kind of supporting local community a little bit more, and the prices are much cheaper. But even when a new item is the same price as the thrifted item, I'd still opt for the thrifted item so that I can stay true to my own values of ethical and sustainable fashion. And finally, number 6, I've had a few comments of things like, oh, geez, that was a lot of work you put into that and it wasn't worth it. Why don't you just go buy a new one? Well, I definitely disagree. Not every project that I make turns out to be a huge success. I obviously love some things that I make more than others, but the process is always a pleasure to me. It's a joy. Thrifting and upcycling is a really fun hobby. Upcycling clothes can be a really fun way to learn new sewing and design and creative skills, to exercise your creative brain, to think outside the box, find something old, breathe new life into it, make something beautiful out of something that was unwanted. It's a joy. So for me and others like me, the process is a pleasure, just like any other skill or craft. Would you ever say to a chef, you can buy a $5 hamburger, so why are you bothering with all that chopping and mixing? No, you wouldn't say that, right? You wouldn't say to somebody who loves to paint, why don't you just go buy a painting? They have them at Walmart. No, you wouldn't say that. You would respect the craft. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody in this lovely community for all of the super sweet and kind and supportive comments, the great questions and suggestions, and really getting what it is that we're doing here when we thrift and we sew and we upcycle. Your comments really help motivate me and keep me going and help me to just let it go when I get a comment from somebody who just doesn't get it. So thank you for listening to my rant today. It's always lovely to have you along. And until next time on Catherine Sews, you take care.